I am a temple who walks the earth. My womb is fertile for giving birth. I am a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. You are the form of who you want to be. So come untethered, your soul is free. We're here to heal, we're here to thrive. We are a dream who's come alive. We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake. A revelation for God's sake. An evolution for God's sake. An inspiration for God's sake. 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 For God's sake.
And so it is. Hello, Essence. Welcome back to Wild Soul Medicine Radio. I'm Jody England, and I'm delighted that you are tuning in today to share in a deep inquiry and conversation today that we are going to be having around mama medicine. I have a very special guest joining me in just a few moments. Her name is Jolette Jai, and she is the founder of the Jai Institute for Parenting. And I met her recently at a really powerful event, and we were drawn to each other because of both of us being paradigm shifters, coaching and training change agents to really look at this new paradigm and what is not working and what must we do to bring things into alignment. And so we were instantly drawn to one another and have, had a beautiful time looking at how we might play together. And I respect her immensely. She really is a powerhouse. She has an extremely successful business. She definitely walks her talk. She's a mama. She has a 7-year-old son that she really gives beautiful, attentive parenting to. And it's so funny. I actually, so we had her send over a bio, which I neglected to print out, which is so funny because, of course, I like to roll with the energy. So, there's been this interesting piece that has occurred for me as, we entertain the idea of like, what is this show wanting to be and what's being called forward. And Jolette is really only the second guest that we've had. And one of the reasons is because I'm walking this line between, I want you to be exposed to amazing people who are doing paradigm radical shifting things out in the world. And I'm also present to this phenomenon that happens where we give our power away to the quote expert. And so, I hesitate to bring someone on who is an expert because then you think they know more than you, and then you immediately go into feeling that you're doing it wrong. And that cycle is definitely old paradigm. So, there's this idea of like, oh, how do I bring someone in who has success in their field and is doing, a lot of beautiful, amazing things, and also, treat them with respect and challenge maybe even what they're up to. So, I don't know exactly what that's all going to look like, but Jolette is beautifully willing to play with us in that space. So with that, what I'd like to do is I'm going to give an energetic introduction of Jolette, and then we're going to bring her on. So energetically, when I feel into Jolette, what I notice about her is she is extremely loving. She is made for mothering. And there's this calmness that exudes from her that you just feel like she could handle anything. She also she's this fiery redhead. So, she does have that warrior mama to her, which, of course, I'm very drawn to. And she's extremely wise. She's a beautiful and powerful entrepreneur and businesswoman. She's definitely a get-it-done kind of woman. So with that, I would love to introduce our guest today, Jolette Jai, and we will see where we go with some mama medicine. Hello, awesome. Jolette.
Hello, Jody. I love that introduction. I've never been introduced like that. Thank you so much.
Good. See, you're rolling with it already. Like, what?
No, it's awesome. It is so awesome. And because really what you're saying is so resonant. And really why we resonate with each other too. Paradigm shifting is all about energetics. And when you're tapping into the energetics of what's happening, then you're really talking to the soul of your whole audience. And really, there is no expert, that we're really acknowledging the soul of every parent. And that's what we do in all of our programs. And it's beautiful. And I feel so aligned with you in this.
Awesome. Well, let's get to it then. So tell us about your what is your paradigm? What are your core beliefs about parenting?
Yeah. So my core belief about parenting is that you can have a deep connected relationship with your child, and you don't need to control your child. And you don't need to punish your child or deal them consequences or have any kind of paradigm of control over your child. That it is possible for you to have this deeply connected, really soulful relationship with your child that's cooperative and that's explorative, and that where you really get to know who your child is, and your child feels safe, really safe, and trusts you with anything. And this is where we're really shifting. We're really shifting the consciousness, because so many of us were parented with the control over mentality, and at no fault to our parents, that's what the paradigm was. And they were really into, if the child doesn't do what I say, or how do I control this child, and feeling uncomfortable in themselves and not knowing what to do. And so the paradigm that we're shifting into is really parents really knowing who they are and what they have to give to their children, and children being able to respect that, really respecting that. And there's just this amazing synergy and connected relationship that happens between the parent and child when that occurs, when we're really shifting into this paradigm.
I love that. Okay, so I already hear the medicine for me. So my listeners are going to resonate that I have mentioned maybe a few times that the main piece of my soul path that I'm here to unravel is control. Mm-hmm. So I'm always learning to trust and surrender and let go. And, I got to say, just to come clean right off the bat here, parenting is not an area that has ever come easy for me. I used to actually think that I would never be a parent. In fact, I said that until I was 30. When I decided to actually have kids, I was sure that I did not want to be a mama. And I probably became a mother for all the wrong reasons, right? It seemed like a thing I needed to check off my life list. Mm-hmm. And of course, I love my children dearly. They're 10 and 11. My daughter is 10, Olivia, and my son is 11, Aiden. And I love them so much, and they teach me so much. And I'm such a better person for being their mother. And, it is the biggest place for lessons for me. And so let's dig into this idea of control, because it's one that comes up a lot in my household, because of course I have a son who has the same paradigm as I do, right? So he shows up as my greatest teacher because he's all about control. So I go in my enlightened mode thinking, okay, we're going to have a conversation about this, and we're going to find a middle ground, and I'm going to listen to what he says. And then it feels like he takes advantage of that. because he's also super smart, right? So he reads at a 12th grade level, even though since he's been in third grade. And so he like kind of uses the paradigm as a way to, do his thing. And my husband and I are always struggling with this idea of how do we honor him as a human being, and then also honor the fact that we work, we have agendas, we have things we need to get done, and we have 4 of us who all have needs and desires. And so navigating all of that together often results in, me finding myself saying things like, because I said so, or we have to do it, or stop talking, this is how it is, And so, so I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for offering that up. Yeah, this is incredible. And this is so much of what most of us as parents are going through. And a few things. One thing is that a paradigm, we can talk about it here, we're paradigm shifters. A paradigm takes a long time to shift. It's not something that's overnight. So we talk about this with all of our parents and our parenting coaches, that it's really a process to be able to shift this. When we talk about control and and really going into controlling over the child, well, these patterns are in us from childhood, but not just that, they're genetically in us. So it's not just our parents, it's our parents' parents, our parents' parents' parents. So this is a paradigm that we have had in our cellular memory for a long time. And our children, you know this, Jody, because you're a mama, and your children, when they were especially 0 to 7, they're incredibly impressionable, and the brain is at such an expansive rate of growth that everything you're doing, they're mirroring. So those patterns of control, your child was mirroring those, and he understands them really well. And that's the part that we're shifting right now. So now when your children are, or when you're trying to go into the new paradigm, the reaction is that they still have that old paradigm within them. So first of all, it takes a while and to shift. Also, one of the things that I see too in what you're saying is that the inside of you're really working on this, and God bless you for working on this. I get it. I so get it. And your reaction to them still, it's whenever there's a hint of it, from a very deep place within you, you're bringing it up so that you have an opportunity to heal it. But it still is showing up as control or looking like control for you. So when I look at it, I say, wow, that's great that this is happening, because this is an opportunity to really shift this and to really heal this.
Beautiful. So do you mind doing a specific example? I'll give you an example, and then you give me an idea of what the paradigm shifting intervention would be. Is that fair? Good?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Well, but I'm going to preface this with, we do really deep work with parents.
Yeah.
And we don't give parenting tools. We don't say, oh, do this with your child. We're very not into behavioral modification. So, if I do this, then this will shift with my child. So we really dig into what is going on with you and what are limiting beliefs that you're holding right now around your children that are causing some of these situations to occur. So It's not just, so if you dive into this with me, I will dive into it with you, but I'm not going to give you like, oh, do this with your son, and it'll all be,
Perfect. Perfect. So I actually love that you said that, right? I love that you don't use the surface tools, right? Because I actually firmly believe that everything is individual. That's what I teach. There isn't a blueprint. It's all about consciousness and awareness and what's being called for in a moment. So whatever the pattern might be between my son and I would be a different remedy than someone else and their child. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we don't want to dive in, because I'm totally open to it. Like, I'm willing to go deep with it, and you're right on. I totally came from a paradigm of controlling. I was raised in a dictatorship, very authoritarian parents, and my father was raised in that way, and so on and so forth. So, absolutely, there's the lineage of that, and then what I teach, there's also the soul path. So there's, what you choose to come in as. So I choose to come in with control as one of the main issues. And my son chose a similar path. And he chose to be born to me because then we get to both spar around who's more in control and who's going to let go, right? So of course he has the patterning from me because that's what he called into. That's kind of where we take it. There is a lot to unravel there. So I'm up for it. And if the process doesn't lend itself to a 10-minute like exploration of the wound, then maybe we should move on to something else. So you tell me.
Yeah, I'm up for it, but this could be an hour, 2-hour call.
That's how my work is. It's like, is there a quick example of this? I don't know.
Because this is really, I'm not into getting temporary results. And that's why our families don't have temporary results. They have lasting results. Like their relationships truly change. And they're truly transformed. And that's what really touches me. So so this could be a process that we do at another time in a longer conversation.
Beautiful. Yeah. Absolutely. I have an idea where we might do that actually. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking about our summit this fall where we're going to be interviewing people like Jolette. Well, she'll come and do my process. And then wouldn't it be cool if I then did your process?
Yes.
Right? I would love to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
Super cool.
It's so exciting for me too. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so stay tuned for that longer conversation where we unravel my control issues with my son.
We got you, Jody. Don't worry. We do this every day.
Beautiful. Great. So let's talk about some other parenting issues. Tell me about. I know that you train parents and you train coaches. Is everyone who comes through your programs, do they know they want to be a parenting coach, or do some people come because they just want to be a better parent?
Yeah, both. We have some people come, they just want to be a better parent, and they're seeing that there's just a real cord of disconnection that they're having with their child, and they can't seem to overcome it. And many have read parenting books. They're really well-versed in quote, parenting, and when they come in, they really want some transformation. They really want to be able to cooperate or have their child cooperate with them or listen or, it's something that is so core in all of us. When there's something off with your child, your relationship with your child, and you may notice this and your listeners may notice this, that everything is off. And this happens across the board. I mean, the people we work with who come in really know that at a core level, the most important thing for them is to have a deeply connected relationship with their child. And we say that when that happens, life works. So that they come in as parents, they also come in as coaches. For parents to just receive support and receive this kind of transformation in their lives, peace in their home. They really want to be able to affect the consciousness on the planet. They want to deeply dive into really shifting something and really making a difference in the world and really making a difference for other families. And we have parents coming in, we have people coming in, doctors, nutritionists, healers, energy workers, therapists. We have so many beautiful people. I love our parenting coaches so much. And they come in and they really want to shift things. They really want to make a difference. And if they come in as parents first, then they can always decide once they see the transformation in their family, they get super excited and they want to be coaches. So we have both.
Beautiful. Were you always this untamed, right? Because most of us, so we talk here about taming and untaming. So taming looks like we're in the old paradigm. We've got all of this stuff over us, like this is how you parent and you got to be in control. And certainly in my household, it was all about fear. definitely fear and control and punishment. And, so that would be the tamed version, and the untaming would be losing the programming. So,
yes.
So what has that journey looked like for you?
Oh, I love this question. Thank you. Yeah. So my journey is a bit different in that in my household, it was very quiet. So I wasn't parented. There weren't really guidelines. I didn't understand how to be in the world. It was a very quiet house. We didn't talk about our feelings. We didn't dive deep into really much. And I love my parents dearly, but that's how it was. And so my quest was, wow, I really want to understand who I am. I want to understand why I'm here. And so the untamed version is being able to talk about everything and being able to really dive into expressing myself and understanding other people's expressions and really being heard as a person, where I didn't feel heard in my family growing up, really deeply heard. And that's one of the things that I've been on a journey to heal in myself. And one of the gifts that I bring to all of our coaches is that gift of being deeply heard. And I noticed that throughout all of our community, but just in the world, we weren't really heard as children, like deeply, deeply heard, like our souls. So.
Beautiful. Yeah, you can hear how Jolette has done her, one of the things I always say about core event work, right, which is the moment of ego formation, is that what you're here to do in your life purpose will answer a problem from your core event, right? So if you are not heard in your household, then your life mission is to create households where everyone is heard, which is how we know Jolette is on purpose, if we didn't already know. She rocks.
Yes.
So good. So good. So let's talk about, I'd like to talk about a couple, they may seem off topic, but they're sort of parenting related. And I'm just curious how this fits into your paradigm. So one idea is this whole, there's kind of a couple movements going on right now. So there's conscious parenting, and then there's real parenting. So conscious parenting, just, in my opinion, like what I can glean from the, gist of it is, really, that it's like it being very enlightened and giving everyone the benefit of the doubt and lots of listening. And then, of course, there's a shadow of every movement. So one shadow of the conscious parenting movement is I think there's a lot of spiritual bypassing going on where people are having real, authentic feelings of, I don't like my children, or I don't want to be with them, or when am I going to get my turn? All of those things. And then they pretend like they're enlightened. And so they don't actually deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think there's, then there's a kind of a backlash movement that sprung up in response to that, which is the real parenting movement. And so in that one, people are like, we're truth telling, so if I don't want to be with my kids, that's what I'm saying. And, and I think that also has its peril because it, people can then bypass attempts at enlightenment. They can bypass opportunities to be tapped into their higher selves and can just be reporting on what is rather than shifting it. And so, I think that is one of the dangers of, being for all of us, even on the edge of creating new paradigm. Brad Blanton, I was just reading his book, Radical Parenting, yesterday. And, he talks about as soon as we drop into the next paradigm, we're already screwed, right? Because then we're already following some other set of beliefs that has us be contracted and not fully in the expansion of inquiry and inclusion of all of the possibilities. So I would love to hear your thoughts around all of that.
Yeah, so great. Yes. So how I see this is that if our movement is really about you being, and that's why I'm so excited to be here with your community today, because it's about however you are at the soul level with your child, like who you are at the soul is your parenting. So it's about you not living into or believing or operating from any limiting beliefs from your past and your childhood that has limited or restricted you or restricted your soul to fully express itself. So just like coming on this show, Jody, and you're talking about, I don't know I don't know how this is going to be. I don't know what's going to show up. And both of us jumped in and said, yeah, we're here. We're here for the journey. And that's really exactly our paradigm. We don't know. When we start to break through, to me, it's very magical, this process, because when you start to break through what has had you wanting to control your child and what the limiting belief is that is having you do that, maybe it's that I'm all alone. Maybe this is something you've been believing about yourself because you started believing it way back in childhood when you were neglected or you felt neglected. And so that's continuing on. And when you can break through that, then we don't know what's possible. But my experience has been that seeing all of our coaches and seeing our parents go through this process, they are blown away by the connection and what's really possible with their children now. And it's a very unexpected connection. So we're not saying like, oh, do this and this will happen. The most potent medicine, I guess you could say, from your is that if you can break through those limiting beliefs and get to the soul level, then we can really communicate with our children on that soul level and get to know who they are and have their souls feel safe. And then anything's possible. Anything, parenting can go however it goes. Your relationship with your child is unique and beautiful and so unique to every parent. I can't even say like, oh, it's going to be like this or it's going to be like this. And the feedback that we get from parents, I'm touched every day. It's the stuff that they are now doing with their children and how they're expressing with their children and how their children are expressing with them. They never thought before, and I have never seen. So it's a curious and open process, really.
What jumped out at me so much from what you just said was discovering your unique soul connection with your child.
Yes.
Like that feels... I got to tell you, I've looked at parenting stuff and I've just never been super excited about learning it or doing it. Because again, I'm not super excited about parenting in general. Like I've always treated my children more like, grown-ups in a way, Yeah. And so I know that we chose to come here as souls together. So I love the idea that we could actually meet in that way, and discover what it is we're really here to do. And I definitely love the idea of my child's soul feeling safe, that it's safe and honored by me.
So much so, yes. And that's what it's amazing because a lot of us, I would say 99% of us didn't have this as children, truly. And I remember when a doctor in France came to us who's a parent, and when he went through the work, he reflected back and he said, I have never been heard before. Like I've never been heard like this before. I feel like I'm heard. And I think there's this child within all of us that has never been heard, like really heard. And we have an incredible opportunity as parents to touch that place and to allow our children to really be safe to be fully heard. And who knows, Jody, like when we do that, that's what I get so excited about this work, because when we do that, who knows what's possible for the next generation? I mean, who knows what we're leaving? Really, we're deeply affecting the consciousness of the next generation, and where our children are going to feel safe to go into relationship instead of carrying all this stuff into relationship. Wow. So we may just put therapy out of business.
I was just going to say, what will we do with all of our time that we're not in therapy? And all the money we're not spending on coaching.
We'll travel together and see the world.
That's right. Oh, I love that. Of course, this is why we resonate. Honestly, I didn't know, very much about how you work or what you do. In my mind, I thought it was much more about tools and techniques and surface. And, your work is really about healing core wounding. And that's exactly what my work is. And, and that really is the thing. When you heal your core wound, it heals everything. And it's such a beautiful thing that you can, relate it to parenting. And then, it's not even about preventing our children's core wounds, but it's really about navigating them so much earlier and giving them that safe foundation, I think, to explore what those wounds might look like.
Yes, so much so. And then you watch them in the world. What just came up for me as you're talking is my son with his teacher. And she has a lot of anger, his teacher, or she has, anger, I don't know what to say. And we can talk openly about this and really explore it together so that he understands that it's not about him. And he starts to understand people on a much deeper level and doesn't take it on as being any of his stuff. And then he can look at her and say, wow, she's angry and this is why she's angry and what may have happened. And so these conversations and just the awareness is very rich that comes in, starting to see it as it unfolds with my child and with the children in our program. It's beautiful.
That's awesome. We do similar things with our children because my work is all about stories. So, we talk about if you're suffering, you need to change your story. And so, we would navigate that situation in a similar way that, the teacher's angry, the teacher's having a story, you're having a story back about the anger. So I wonder what other story you could tell yourself, right? And then also looking at how we attract and create things based on our stories and all of that. I really do think that's such a powerful foundation to give children because then they know they're the master of their universe, so to speak. And it really does give them radical self-confidence, which is beautiful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I love it that you brought up the teacher because I wanted to ask you, so my children have been in this beautiful private school Montessori environment for, the whole time. They're now in going into 5th and 6th grade. And so the Montessori ends for my son. And so he is transitioning next year into public school. And I am having so much trouble with it. There aren't really a lot of other options for us here. And it brings up a lot in me around loss of freedom, indoctrination, fitting into the old paradigm, just the whole way that system is and the consciousness level of most of the people and the teachers he'll be exposed to there and just, all of that. And then on the flip side being like, well, I could unschool, but I don't want to have responsibility for, training him or schooling him. And that's definitely not where my patience level or interest level is. And so my husband and I have been having all these conversations around what's the right thing and what's fully honoring of him and his path and all of that. So do you have any thoughts about schooling and unschooling and homeschooling and, all of those things?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's path is so different here. And I love how you say you're honoring his soul path and what you're really looking at that with your husband. I think this paradigm, look, he's going into a situation, and my son's in public school, so we navigate this a lot. This paradigm, Jody, that we're shifting, which we call the dominant paradigm or having control over people, it's all around us. It's not like all of a sudden we're living in some utopia. I mean, unless you were to move to a commune and then you're just living within this, beautiful, soul revered paradigm. So my thoughts around this are that, empowering a child to be able to navigate in any situation is incredibly valuable. And my belief is that the more that parents, that we can bring this new paradigm into the schools, that we can really start affecting some change. And also the children are going to see how we interact with this paradigm. So a lot of times when somebody comes with the dominant paradigm into our programs or just I'm meeting them in society out, my reaction is not one of dominance or control. I'm not meeting it with control. I'm meeting it with empathy. And when you meet something with empathy, everything melts. So we're really being models of the new paradigm wherever we go. And that's something that we can empower our children to be models of this new paradigm wherever they go. And so instead of the school being a place that's overpowering the children, the child can be a revolutionary person within the school. And the parents can also be a structure of support that entices that kind of a revolution, or entices them to really be able to bring all of that into the school. I just, as an example, when in our school, one of our coaches is an author. Her name's Shani Sanchez, and I encourage everyone to go get her book. It's called what is it called? There Are No Animals in This Book, Only Feelings, and it's in Barnes & Noble. But that's my little plug for Shani. So Shani is an amazing author in New York. She's one of our parenting coaches. And she goes in and she reads this book in schools in New York. She reads it to hundreds of children. And it's her way to really bring this idea of feelings into the public schools. So the other day, I brought her book into my son's class, and we read about feelings, and we had this very open discussion about feelings, all kinds of feelings. And so that was just one way that me as a parent walked into a situation that was in the, quote, dominant paradigm, and really brought what I had to offer in there. And that's how I think things are going to be shifting, is really from the inside out.
I love that. You sound exactly like my husband, who I was sure was wrong. He's like, well, don't you think we give them a great foundation and then they can go spread that to the school? And I'm like, I don't want them to have to.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. So I'm just going to do a quick little, I'm sure that we have women who are dying to ask some questions. So we don't have the ability to take a verbal question, but if you want to type us a question, if you're listening on the website, there's a small little box on the player that looks like a chat box. If you click that, it'll pop it up and you can type us your question. So if anybody wants to ask Jolette something, you can type it in the chat box, and we'll just kind of monitor that throughout the rest of our time here if you would like me to ask her something on your behalf. Great. Okay, so you talk about the role of the goddess mama. Tell us more about that. What does that mean?
Well, the role of the goddess mama is really, as women, embracing ourselves and our needs as goddesses, and that we're really living into this idea. So many of us as moms are depleted or feeling like we don't get our needs met, and we can't really be there in our full presence for our children. Living into the goddess mama is that, okay, you get all your needs met, most of your needs met, but you really get all your needs met, and you're really living in your true power as a goddess. And a goddess is somebody who's wise and who has wisdom and beauty and strength, and she really is able to just be there and model who she is and her strength for her children.
I love that. So that touches on another question I had, which is, how do we balance our own desires and needs and those of our children? Because that's probably one of the most common things I see with my clients is, feeling like we have to give everything to our children, and then there is nothing left. And so awareness is sort of the first piece. And then there are those real life moments where, I want to be on a work call, or I want to take on a big project that's going to take some time. And my daughter wants me to, drive her to another city for the soccer team she wants to have. And we can't actually navigate both. That's a silly example. But,
yes.
When those things are happening, any guidelines for women to discern, how do we decide? Is it both of us getting our needs met, or either or?
Yeah, such a great question. So anything that we do, it's always an exploration. You're in relationship with the child. So being in relationship means that you get to explore with them, and also that there is a way, and one of our coaches is so great about this, as she puts it, there is a way that we can both get our needs met here. And entering into the conversation like that with your child allows for some exploration, but really allows for you to be able to honor your needs at the same time that you honor your child's needs, and come to just like you would with any relationship, Jody, come to a place of agreement where you're both honored. And I think that, my midwife was so great about this, and I did not listen to her. But when, right after my son was born, she said, okay, Jolette, she sat me down. She goes, here's the order of things. And she was a Sikh, and she was from New York and very direct. And she said, here's the order of things. First, there's you. Second, there's your relationship with your husband. And third, there's your child, kind of the things to take care of. And it's so funny, Jody, because in all these years now, 7 years, I reflect on that, and she was so right. And not that we ignore our children, but really, like, we are the wellspring. We are everything. And if your needs aren't being met, if you're not feeling whole, then guess what's going to pop up are all those limiting beliefs and all that resentment. And it's really, you're not creating that container of support. You're not creating that emotional environment that you really want for your child. And they're modeling you on a very cellular level all the time. So they're getting to see, wow, my needs don't matter. Even though you're helping them to fulfill their needs, they're watching you being able or not valuing your own needs, and they're getting that lesson. So it's so valuable to be able to honor your needs first. And then if you are in relationship with a partner, you're showing them, you're also modeling this for your children, you're modeling relationship. And then there's your child. So
I completely agree. That's exactly the order I would give. And that's the exploration I would take with my clients, is because I think most women are so pre-programmed to put themselves last, even though we all think we're selfish, horrible, withholding mothers, no matter what we do, that's what we think. So yeah, I completely agree with that too. And we do.
It's not an easy thing to do. It's really not. But after, when you start doing it and you start practicing it, then like anything, you just get kind of in the habit of it. The other day my son came home and he wanted to play, and I really needed a nap. And so I ended up napping, like, unheard of when he was small.
So good. So good. What I love is when you start teaching these new paradigm examples to your children, right? And then they start reflecting them back to you.
Yes.
It's like, and then they become your teachers, which is great. I had I'll tell a funny story, and then we have 2 great questions from some listeners. So this is my, control son that I battle with. And one day he came home from school and he had gotten in trouble at school. It was minor trouble. Like he didn't finish his spelling work or something at school. And so they normally don't send any work home, but they sent a note home saying, I did not get my work done today and I had to sign it. So he came in crying and like battling of, I got in trouble and it wasn't my fault and stupid teacher and I know you're going to be mad at me. And so we had this whole long thing where I was saying, I'm not actually mad at you. I don't even think it's a big deal. And do you want to talk about why the work didn't get done? Or can we just do it and be done? And so he was really wound up. It took him about an hour to calm down. And one of the things I was saying to him was, I already forgive you. Can you forgive yourself? Because that's part of his soul path, right? Is holding on and being really mean to himself. So, so then fast forward to like a few months later, and they had a piano recital. So they're up on stage at the end of the recital and the teacher's speaking about them. And then she was done, and my son went to the edge of the stage and like jumped off, instead of like waiting to file down the thing. So perfect example of taming, right? And exactly the point that we don't always have it all together. Because I got really triggered. So as he jumped off, she said, Aiden, England, you cannot jump off. You have to come and stand on the stage, right? And so it was I was embarrassed and I was triggered. And normally I'm totally about, jumping outside the lines. But in that moment, something got me. So, all the way home, I'm giving a lecture and telling him how, wrong he was and how he shouldn't have done it. And I came home and my husband wasn't able to be there. And so I was telling my husband about like, this is what happened and can you believe it? And of course he jumped on my bandwagon of like, all of that old paradigm, like blame and shame, control. So I go in to tuck my son in And I said, do you have anything you'd like to say to me? Thinking he would apologize, right, for embarrassing me.
Right.
So good. Bright, shiny parenting moment right there. And he says to me, Mom, I don't think it was that big of a deal. And I've already forgiven myself. So I think we should let it go.
Great.
So great. I was like, thank you. I'm bowing to you. Yes. So good. And
So
actually,
good.
one of the things that we say in our family all the time is that our job with each other in this family is to help each other be better human beings, right? So none of us are going to be getting it right, and all of us are going to slip into our programming and our story and our taming at times. And our job for each other is to reflect that higher seeing. I know who you really are, and I can see that you're scared or sad or triggered or whatever's happening, and I love you in that, and also I'm holding this higher space for you,
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Yes, so much so.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take some callers. We have Susan from Denmark, and she is asking about how to manage her anger. So it's also around control. She's giving an example of what happens when her son wants to do one thing and she wants to do another thing, but what it brings up in her is anger. And what does she do with that anger?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few things with anger to know about. Anger is a compound emotion. So anger is a mixture of many emotions. So we want to look at at the genesis of the anger. So when does she start feeling the anger? And at that moment that she starts to feel Susan, that you start to feel the anger, to be able to recognize that it's starting. Now, this sounds really, really simple. It's really, really hard to do, or that it's a challenging thing. So to notice that the anger is rising. Oh, okay. What are the sensations in my body that I'm angry right now? And then being able to actually say, I'm angry as it's rising. So when you're able to start with just this little piece, then you're able to start saying that to your child. So expressing anger with your child there's a way that feels safe for the child, and there's a way that feels really unsafe for the child. And we call it almost the anger is spilling over into the child's space. And you guys, you recognize this as parents. So when you're angry or you have your anger and you're projecting it onto the child, that you'll notice the facial expressions, you'll notice your child's body, just their body language, how they hold themselves, that they're really being affected by your anger. So that's the way that's really unsafe for them. So what we practice is that the anger's okay. It's okay to get angry. And really the way that you can regulate yourself in the anger, how you are with your anger, is really how your child is going to be how you're modeling that for your child as well. So how you are with your anger, you can be in a very safe space with your anger. So you could be able to express it and not have it spill out onto your child. When we do exercises, I know in our program and in my training, we were showing ourselves on a chair, and we would sit on this chair, and you can imagine a circle around you, and just playing with your space, like, okay, here's where I can feel angry, and it's okay, and my child, I'm not spilling out onto my child, and then also playing with, okay, here's where it spills out onto my child. And so checking in with your child after, you'll know the difference. And it's okay for you to say, Susan, that I'm really angry right now, and here's why. That's totally fine. It's another thing where your child's going to be very affected if I'm so angry at you, and you'll know when that anger is spilling out onto your child. And you can check in with your child always in those moments of anger, right after those moments. And that's really where we repair the connection. And we go in and we say, wow, I wonder how you were feeling. I was really sad. That was really scary, Mom. So those are two ways to kind of play with it, to really recognize that you're feeling angry and start to name it. And when you're naming the feeling, you're automatically in your brain, you're starting to what's called tame the feeling. I don't want to say tame for your show, but you're starting to regulate yourself and starting to bring what we call the front part of your brain back online so that you can parent from a calmer place.
I love that. It as you're talking, it feels to me energetically like having an internal experience with your anger instead of many of us don't like the sensation of anger or we're afraid of it because we got the projection from our parents. So when we feel anger, we want to get rid of it. And so we project it onto whoever's close, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
It sounds like by noticing the anger, you can almost turn inward and notice like, oh, I'm having this reaction in my body. And then just stating it as a fact to your child, I'm really angry right now, right? Without having to do anything with the anger.
Exactly. Yes. And that really is breaking the cycles of blame and shame. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we're doing. That is at the core of what we're doing. So we're not passing on the blame and shame manipulation cycles anymore.
So good. So good. Suzanne says, thank you. I get it. Heart.
You're welcome, Suzanne.
Loves it. Yay. Thanks for the question. That was a good one. Perfect. So the next question actually flows perfectly into us heading toward wrapping up. We have about up to 9 minutes or so if we need them. But I do want people to be able to connect with you around your programs and if they're feeling resonance with your work. So this question is from Janet, and she says she wants to know, does the parent coaching involve the children directly? My girls are very much soulful and able to teach me better communication and would hear the relationship honoring in their own way to deepen the coaching effectiveness. So do you involve children in the parenting coaching at all?
Absolutely. So for all of the parent coaches that are coming in, they need to be a parent. Mm-hmm. So the work that they do in the first 10 weeks of our program is with their children. And then they learn in the next 10 weeks how to coach what they just went through. Mm. So they're intimately doing the work with their children, and they're bringing that to everything that we do. So yes, absolutely, the children are very much involved.
Oh, that's so good. And what a smart way to deliver that. That's a program that I can trust because it's not about, I know I always talk about the blueprints and stuff, but they really do drive me crazy. It's like, but what's good about this is it's not just handing somebody their coaching certificate that says, you're on your way, but actually having them walk the talk, go have this experience, go do your work, learn the things. And then you get to go teach what you've learned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so much so. And one more thing that while you're sharing that comes up for me is that this is really, and I've had so many coaches, Jody, tell me you got to shorten the program or and just looking at a model, not looking at what this actually is. And I haven't, because it's a transformative process and it's necessary that you really do, like that parents really do have that transformation in their family, that they live it and breathe it and feel it. And wow, this is what's possible. This is how I'm connected with my child. This is amazing. And this is what I want for others now too. So when they get excited, that it takes that time to shift the paradigm. It takes that time to really have that kind of connection. They have that experience and then they're on fire. I mean, our coaches are they're so excited and they get so energized by doing this work with others.
I completely agree. That's exactly how our programs are. And a lot of people a lot of coaches in the past, business coaches have said, you've got to shorten your program. You've got to offer a cheaper version or a more surface version. And it's like, I don't really roll like that. I'm about like what actually works. So we have to go all the way in and it takes a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. Love it. So I know that you have a program that's starting right about now, but it's, this program will run for this show is recorded and we'll be playing, over and over in perpetuity. So let's talk about that program because people can hop into it right now. And then if you're catching this replay months from now, there still is a possibility there may be one happening. So you can check it out at any point. But do you want to just give them the very high points? And you know what I love? Instead of talking from a mind level about what they get and what it is and, all of that, I wonder if you could deliver an energetic transmission of what it is. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, completely. Yes. I will do my best at energetically transmitting. So what this is it's for parents and those who want to be parenting coaches. It's also for people who don't know what parent coaching is, but they know that there's a shift that they really need to have in their families and that they really want a deep, deep connection with their child. So it's for really, it's this shift into having a soul connection with your child that is like nothing else you've ever experienced. It's allowing your child to feel safe and nurtured and know that their soul matters and that no matter where they go in life, that their soul matters. It's giving them that gift. And by you going through this program, you give them that huge gift. And as if you're continuing on and if you're going on to being a coach, it's really offering that to other families and being able to really, there's so much information, and when you can give somebody the gift of transformation, I know it sounds corny, but when you really do affect another person's life and a family's life, and you can actually know that you've done that, I don't know of anything greater. So it's for people who really are on that journey to have really purposeful lives and really know that they're making such a huge difference and that they're changing and they're bringing out the soul of children and that children are being served in a huge way.
So as you're speaking, I was tapping into the energetic of how this program is really set up. And I remember from us talking there, everybody takes the first 10 weeks. So everybody's doing the work at becoming a better parent and doing the work with your children. Yes. And so you can just do that part. You don't have to start a whole business as a parenting coach. You can just work with your own stuff. And then if you're inspired and you want to take it further, then you continue on with the next set of learning, and then you can become a coach. But what I was feeling is, so spider medicine is one of my totems, and it's all about weaving webs, the interconnectedness of life. And I was seeing this vision of, all of these moms in the schools taking the 10-week course and then just teaching other moms even.
Yes.
And then it spider webbing out into, can you imagine if your children's friends were also being met on a soul level by their parents? And if you're then the teacher of your child got excited and inspired and said, you know what, I want to be able to meet my students on a soul level. And oh my gosh,
yes,
we're shifting the paradigm then, aren't we?
Yes, so much so. And Jody, it's so simple. It's really simple. And the parents who come in our program, they start seeing it within 3 weeks. We really... it's very simple and it just goes deep. And because these patterns are so deep and they've been covering up our souls for so long, and it's time to break through them so that we can have those soul connections. Yeah, I get so excited by what's possible. And our coaches do bring this into schools. They bring it into corporations. They bring it, and one trained 200 teenage girls on self-esteem in New York. And, what difference, how different are those girls' lives going to be now growing up, knowing that deeply that they're loved and that it's okay. Whatever they're feeling is okay. So
good. So good. So, Jolette, thank you so much for sharing this beautiful medicine with us today. I hope that our listeners will take from this that what I hope you take is inspiration to heal your stuff, So whether you decide to go through Jolette's program or whether you decide to work with someone else or just sit on your meditation cushion and do your work, there is no reason to wait, and all of us moms who are saying oh, well, I don't have time, or I don't have the money right now, or I don't have whatever resource you think you're lacking that would have you go in and focus on yourself. The reason is very apparent, right? It's you have to fill your own container. If you're not going to do your work, your children are not going to do their work. And so I really feel like that is our marching order here as a wild woman on the edge of the paradigm is we've got to be fierce about creating time and space for this work to happen for ourselves and for our children and then ultimately our planet.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to check out Jolette's program, you can do that at tinyurl.com/WSMR, right? Short for Wild Soul Medicine Radio, WSMR Parenting. So tinyurl.com/WSMR Parenting. And if you, we'll also send that out. If you're on our mailing list, we'll send that out in a link so you can check it out that way. We'd also love to have you join us in the tribe. So Jolette is going to be over in the tribe entertaining any other questions we didn't get to from you. If you want to know more about the program, if you want to just get to know her, she's a fantastic, amazing pulse of a woman. So to join us there is facebook.com/groups/Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe. Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe. We've got a vibrant group of women in there supporting each other and chatting up our guests. So we'd love to see you over there as well. So again, Jolette, thank you for your medicine. Thank you for your wisdom and your friendship. So great to be with you.
Oh, you're so welcome, Jody. Such a pleasure being with you guys today.
Thanks, everyone. Until next time.
We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination, for God's sake. A revelation, for God's sake. An inspiration, for God's sake. Illumination, for God's sake. For God's sake. For God's sake. For God's sake.